Hello, it's Chaosman50 from the Hardware Diversity Discussion, and today is a new show of mine called My Thoughts, and it's basically discussing technology and particular product lines and things like that. I thought it would be a bit more palatable than an hour-long live stream that I used to do with my friend, and hopefully you can learn a bit, you can get educated a bit, and also maybe follow my content a bit more as well. I hope you like the new video format. I'm actually using my phone right now, as I thought maybe I'd like to step up the quality instead of my 720p webcam that I used to use and still do use for videos and things like that. I did try to use my SLR just before, and honestly the video recording limit of about 10 minutes did come into play, which is a bit of an issue. I wasn't too happy about that, so I thought, well, how about I try my phone, and I seem to have that set up quite well at the moment. Hopefully it works out well, and hope the video is to your liking. Anyway, back onto the topic at hand. It's something that's close to my heart and close to everybody's heart here, hopefully, is AMD's Ryzen. So that's going to be episode 1, and there'll be future product lines down in the near future. But anyway, Ryzen, as we all know, it is AMD's new architecture that is, it's been released after Bulldozer and Piledriver. That was on the AM3 Plus socket. So what's different with Ryzen? Well, it's on AM4, so it's got 1331 pins, so you can't use the old processors on the new socket. It's got DDR4 support, which is modern. It's also got lots of new features like PCI Express Gen 3. I know you had them on the APUs, but this is the first desktop processor they've had with that support. It's got USB 3.1 natively into the processor. It's also got NVMe through the BIOS, and it's also got lots of PCI Express lanes to use for those, So that's really, really good to see. So what is Ryzen? Well, it is quite a complicated topic at hand, but I'll try to explain it so most people can understand what I'm talking about here. Anyway, I'll have some graphics up on the screen to help you along, but it's built up of these core complexes that are used, which have housed 4 cores in each complex with a large pool of L3 cache, which is how the cores communicate. This is through the technology called Infinity Fabric, which actually connects 2 CCX units together in a mainstream Ryzen platform, where they use the memory controller of each of them, and that's how they use their inter-core communication as well. This also is the same clock and the same bandwidth as the memory controller, as that's what it uses between the cores, and that's effectively how Infinity Fabric works. So it's been proven again, using faster RAM on these CPUs does actually increase the bandwidth, increase the performance that you get between the cores, and thus extra bandwidth is extra performance. So that's always helpful. It's only about 10 to 15% extra if you use 2666 or 3200 megahertz RAM, but I'll get onto that a bit later on about whether that's important to you or not. So yeah, that's effectively how it works. It's got lots of features. It's got 16 PCI Express lanes through the CPU, and it's got an extra 14 through the chipset, so you can effectively 40 lanes. So that's a lot that can be used, and as I said, lots of USB 3.1, lots of LAN ports, and SLI and Crossfire is capable through the high-end chipsets, X370 to be exact. But yeah, we'll go on to a bit about the models of Ryzen. There's quite a few, so we'll get through them relatively quickly. Anyway, we start off with Ryzen 3, which was actually released just last month, and is the last of the Ryzen processors to be launched. And this is effectively the competition to the i3 CPUs. However, there is quite a few differences. But anyway, there's 2 here. We've got the Ryzen 3 1200 and the Ryzen 3 1300X. Now, the 1200 has a base clock of 3.1 GHz and a boost of 3.4, and obviously 1300X has got 3.5, 3.7. Both have a 65 watt TDP, and both got 4 cores. The interesting thing about the X series, which has got the extended frequency range, that means the cores boost an extra 100 MHz above the clock speed that is stated there on one core only. kind of like what Intel Turbo Boost 3.0 is like, and that boosts one core quite a bit above the rest. But not a lot of applications do use one core, so it's not particularly relevant. But anyway, and also the other thing about the XFR units, with the X at the end of the nomenclature, means that they don't come with a cooler. So you have to buy your own, and I suppose that means they're better for overclocking and things like that. Ryzen 5 is a bit more interesting and a bit more of the sweet spot, if you ask me. And that is got quite a few products in here. Got 4. That's the 1400, 1500X, 1600 and 1600X. The 1600 series are both 6 core, and they go from 3.2 to 3.6, and they've got 3.6 to 4 gigahertz, and as I said, the one with the XFR doesn't come with a cooler, and has a 95 watt TDP instead of the 65 watt on the rest of them. The 1500X is the quad core with SMT, which is AMD's proprietary hyper-threading technology. That's actually more efficient than Intel's offerings, and so actually provides the extra performance gain in the multi-threaded workloads that what makes these CPUs really, really good value. And the good thing about all these CPUs, before I move on, is the fact that they are all unlocked, and you can use the B350, which is the mid-range chipset, or the X370 for overclocking. So that's really, really good to see, and really increases their value proposition in the marketplace, that's for sure. So as I said, yeah, very low wattage, and very, very good performance from the 14 nanometer process. Moving on to the high end, and this is the Ryzen 7 CPUs, which is obviously following Intel a little bit with their naming scheme, but these are 8 cores and 16 threads, all of these here, and the 1700 does have a 65 watt TDP. I do know that Asus did actually cram one into a laptop with the RX 580 on one of their ROG series machines. I'm not exactly sure the product number, but that's pretty impressive to see an 8 core in a laptop, other than a Xeon or an i7, a desktop i7, which some laptops have been using as of late. But the 1700 has a 3.1 GHz base and a 3.6 turbo without XFR. The 1700 has a 3.4, 3.8 with XFR, so up to 3.9, and the 1800X is a 3.6 to 4 with a 4.1 XFR. So that's not bad. I mean, obviously you can get the 1800X for about $600 New Zealand, which is pretty damn competitive, for multi-threading and productivity workloads, which really what these CPUs designed for, because a lot of people have been slamming these CPUs, but actually, honestly, they've got the same sort of IPC as Broadwell E, and that is quite high, and really you don't buy a Broadwell E CPU for gaming particularly. They're more for your content creation and a lot of compute workloads and things like that, high-end workstation stuff, and this is where these cores are designed for, as they are actually built on the same platform as the EPYC, the server platforms, and also Threadripper, which I'll talk about in a separate video, for where they are the same cores, and really for those sort of workloads they are absolutely brilliant, and the bandwidth of the Infinity Fabric is quite increased, and that's really where these things shine. So talking about the future of Ryzen, talking about where this will go, because there is a rumoured Ryzen Plus for next year, which is going to be a refresh. I'm really, really hoping to see a maximum of about 4.5 GHz on the boost for these chips, because that would be really extend the IPC that you get out of Cinebench, and you're probably looking about 160 to 170 out of that, which will really catch up with Skylake and give Intel a bit of a scare again, hopefully, to actually have them a bit more IPC gain, because it doesn't look like Coffee Lake is going to have any of that, but I'll talk about that in a separate video once again. Also, there's going to be a Zen 2, and AM4 is going to be compatible with Zen 2 and Zen Plus, so you won't have to change motherboards, unlike Intel, where you have to get a new chipset every time you get a new CPU line up, which is a bit of a shame, but these will remain relevant until then. And I'm hoping with Zen 2 that they may look at altering the CCX design and actually add extra cores in, and I'm hoping you'd get a base, maybe a Ryzen 2200 or something like that will be a base of a 6-core CPU potentially, and will really hopefully eradicate quad cores, because 2019, it's a couple of years away, and I'm thinking by then these CPUs will be optimized, because the consoles, certainly the Xbox One X is looking like it's going to be an APU based as AMD, because they do have licenses with Sony and Microsoft for the consoles. And I'm just thinking perhaps by then we'll be looking at optimizing these new CPU architectures, like the mesh architecture that's with Intel, because that's why they're lagging behind in games, because these engines are about 10 years old, as Good Old Gamer was saying in his most recent video. They are aging, and they're not designed for more than 2 cores, possibly even 4 cores. But some of the more modern engines like CryEngine, and certainly the Frostbite engine from EA, really is keeping up to date and really optimizing these multi-core CPUs and using them to their full potential. And that's what we need to see, because until then, ring bus on the Intel with the 7700K will still be the fastest CPU you can buy for gaming, because one, there's a lack of core support, and two, there's actually a lack of optimizations for these new architectures. So fingers crossed that happens sooner rather than later, I hope. But anyway, I think that about wraps it up. There's a lot of, Ryzen's great. I'm certainly going to be upgrading it to myself, and as I said, I hope you like your video quality, because it's run through my phone and running at 1080p, so that'll be a bit interesting. I'm not sure whether I'll get my SLR working for these videos, whether I can crank them down to 10 minutes or not, because I do tend to ramble on a lot, as I do like passionate about these subjects, I suppose you can say. But yes, as I'll talk about Threadripper in a separate video, probably talk about i9, current, talk about Coffee Lake as well, and possibly other bits of technology in the future, because I think having a live stream is, I like it, and I probably will still look at it again, but I like these sort of small snippet videos where you can learn a lot about these architectures. But anyway, don't forget to rate, comment, favourite and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Peace out for now. Bye bye.